Is it 4:15? What time is it? Oh, shoot. It's after 4:15. All right, let's get rolling. How's everybody? Today will be a quickie. Yeah, can you guys hear me? See the screen? Might as well do a audio video mic check. Nick, can you hear me or no? Can you hear me now? Okay, cool. All right, welcome everybody. Not a whole lot to talk about today that's new. All right, so we'll keep it quick. We could go home, relax, get ready for another day mañana. Pretty much has, early on into earnings season, we just got the banks, but we're kind of prepared for this for at least the first couple weeks, okay, until we get some of these, especially these larger high beta names to report, okay? Because let's face the facts here before we think about earnings and everything else going on, all right? Is not gonna last forever, okay? And what I mean is the action in names like Apple, Tesla, this doesn't go on for obvious. Right? So, a lot of us, including myself, I've been staying away from these names completely, but a lot of people know how I play. I do that. I tend to do that early, right? I'm more conservative in that manner. I stick with some of the fresher action out there. But I think even for those of you who like to play these names, now is the time where you have to be careful. Even if you're looking to stay nimble, I think now is where you run the risk of those sharp reversals coming out of nowhere. Okay, the pool is getting quite full, put it that way, and it can linger, right? Yes, for you ever thought it would, but that's irrelevant in my eyes. You rather be early than late when it comes to these type of moves to the upside, because you can get blindsided. More importantly, a lot of us already have been focused elsewhere. Okay, and it's a good time to do that as we, get earnings season rolling here. We were talking on the Sunday webinar how, what we're trying to focus on now because of earnings and, we can't trust the flow as much as we were, right? Going on, a lot of stock replacement going on. What we ideally like to see and play off of, okay, is action in the underbelly. All right. And underbelly, that's a big pool of names right now. Okay. When I'm talking about the underbelly of the market, I'm not talking about micro cap stocks, e-liquid stocks. Okay. I'm talking outside of this crowded, widely followed, high beta pool. And today was a good example. We'll talk about quite a few names that fit the bill early on this morning and had incredible action, okay? Incredible juice and a lot of momentum. But our focus, right, where we can possibly get a bigger bang for our buck with less risk of getting caught in some of these short pulls, was going to be in the underbelly of the market, and preferably if we see action that doesn't catch earnings dates. Okay, so I'll give you a quick example of what I mean for those of you who may not be familiar. Okay, let's say, for example, what was the name today? Pins. So you got Pinterest starts to catch some sweeper activity, and they're reporting at the end of February. Okay, interestingly enough, the aggressive buying has been up in Jan monthlies, the end of June, Feb monthlies, all of that, okay, all that action, all those bets aren't activity, correct? Right? So it says a little bit about the action in where, somebody was going to obviously make a play on earnings. He wants to catch earnings, okay? And maybe possibly that player has something up his not earnings related that can help add to the momentum of the juice. Okay. For me, again, call me conservative or whatever definition you want to put on it. For me, I want to day trade that action. Okay. Because swing trading could be obviously difficult, especially with not trusting the flow, right? Because I mean, the reason I trade like that, I'm solely trading off flow. Okay. I'm solely trading off sweeper activity. If a name doesn't catch a sweep, you're not going to see me make a play on it. It's pretty much that simple. All right. So for me, it's not worth my while, especially a market that's rallied as significantly as it has already, for me to take that added risk and try to swing something off sweeper activity I don't have as much faith in. Okay. But one thing I have a lot of confidence in, even though I may have a little less because of earnings, faith in sweepers providing momentum on an intraday basis. Talk about that a lot. So for me, my bread and butter right now, and I don't care about how much missing, but not by not holding overnight, okay, or any of that stuff. I'm solely looking to take advantage of the juice of the momentum on an intraday basis. Okay, some may move nicely, some may not move, some I may have to stop out with a small loss. I'm okay with all of that. Net, I'm looking to make a little bit of money out of this whole equation, okay? Get through earnings season, possibly a pullback in some of these overcooked names, and then reevaluate, okay? Then there are better setups out there with initial activity, new flow coming in post earnings. Okay. So that's my outlook on it. I could just share what I'm doing for myself and the way I view things. Okay. And obviously, from experience, I can share with you, stuff, my take on flow and why I don't trust it during earnings season, why I trust it more outside and all that jazz. All right. But if a simple way to look at things, I would look at the sweeper activity right now as one thing, solely one thing, and that is momentum now. And that's it. Okay. I don't care. Like, for example, we see another, what was it, $2-3 million sweeps in Tesla. Okay. We can ooh and ah, and, till we turn purple in the face. It's old news, right? It's old news already. Okay. So now the question you have, or I recommend you ask yourself off when you see an order like that, can I see momentum off that bet now? And do I feel there's possibly for me to place a bet and try to catch a quick move? Okay. The $1 million behind it, like, some people get excited over, looks good, right? Tells us nothing. It tells us absolutely nothing right now. Okay. Especially Tesla. You got everybody and their mother getting squeezed out the ass, right? A lot of pain there. To force buying is an understatement in that thing. All right. And it tells us nothing about earnings. Houdini is not placing these bets. Knows how earnings are going to turn out in Tesla, let alone how the stock is going to react off those earnings after a move. Okay. Anybody who tells you that they know how that's going to turn out is full of shit. We know that already. Okay. So that's why I suggest every single order you see, simple question, can this help create some momentum? And would it be enough momentum for me to place a bet on it and try to take advantage of it? Okay. Because there's other factors too, right? What's the market doing at that time? Is the market dead? Are we in the middle of the afternoon? There's no other sweeper activity around it. Things aren't moving much, right? Gamma's up at 2.5 billion. The upside may be limited. There are other things to factor in that you may want to factor into that equation, whether it's worth it or not for you. But the main premise is, can I see enough momentum and is it worth my while to make a play? All right. And don't let the upside, the further upside, bother you here, okay? Because, yeah, you're going to see a couple of names, especially early on, that you sell, and maybe the next day they move higher, okay? And you're going to see, other names do the same, but move a little less than the next day. But when sharp reversal comes in those hot names, it happens so quick. And the likelihood is it's going to wipe out, the last several days of a move at the least. All right, so it's easy to get pissed off and envious of others as they make money going on. But wait till it's all said and done and see how they turn out. All right. So that's how I'm looking at things anyway right now. All right. So I'll give an example today, especially those who are members. You could get an idea of what to look for. Right. This is a name a lot of you had your eye on already. A lot of you have traded over the last couple of days. Didn't really get too much movement in it because there was a little bit of flow. You were interested in it. I don't know, maybe some of you are still in it from a swing, but I know I got a lot of questions on it. Okay. But we've been seeing a little pickup in activity, right? A little pickup in the buying in Pinterest. All right. And this is the I bring to your attention as well. So for example, the last couple of days, I think it was, I'm losing track of the days, but I'm almost positive it was yesterday and a little the day before that, we have seen an uptick in the sweeper activity. Okay. So let's say hypothetically you did try to trade it yesterday off, some poke in the calls, and the stock didn't move much. You get out with a scratch, a little bit of a gain, whatever the case may be. Okay. Don't get discouraged by that. All right. Because if you do, you miss an opportunity like we had this morning where, a bucket of sweeper activity just comes in, and this type of sweeper activity you're looking for momentum purposes. When you see me or you see the board lighting up, sweep, 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 right, where I can't even keep up in a sense, okay, there is no doubt that's going to create some sort of momentum. It's a matter of how much momentum and how long that momentum lasts, okay? But the fact of whether it's going to create momentum or not already answered when we see that rapid fire sweeper activity, okay? That's just the way, the mechanics of the market and how they set up, where how market makers have to hedge some of that risk off, that snowballs into momentum, right? We talk about that a lot, all right? So when you see that type of action, that is the best type of action for this intraday type of setup we're looking for, okay? Not every time are you going to get it into selling, right? Sometimes you got to chase a little bit. Sometimes you're willing to chase a little bit more, depending on the market that day, a little bit less on a different day. Don't rack your brain over it, right? Some days you're going to decide not to play something and you're going to be pissed you did. Some days you're going to play something, you're going to get stopped out and be pissed you did. That's all part of the game. It's irrelevant, okay? But the name of the game is to get in when you start to see that action heat up, okay? And then that's where you're making a judgment call whether you want to raise stops, right? If you're playing equity, you could trail a stop, or you're playing options, you may be content, right? You get a 50% move. These things fly a lot of times, especially names like Pinterest when they catch heat like this. All right. Me personally, I'll tell you exactly how I played it. I got stopped out, basically the one pullback of the morning. I'll show you right now where I got stopped out. And then I missed the second move in it. Right here. See this? Okay. So you had this move right off the open, okay, which was really nice. Right? I raised the stop. I tried to milk it as long as I could. Right? This shook some of us out here, stopped quite a few of us out, and then bink, they took it higher. Was I pissed? Of course, but I mean, it's part of the game, right? It's part of the game. But this is what I'm looking for, right? this is what I'm looking for. All this is gravy. Sometimes this is going to happen, right? Sometimes it doesn't. This, a lot of times, in my feeling, it's luck. Depends on the market conditions, right? Depends on how much juice there is, how much sweeper activity comes in. Do they continue to sweep it throughout the whole process? So there's a lot of luck involved, a lot of stuff you can't forecast, in a sense. You can't control, okay? But when the sweeper activity comes in, right, this is exactly what you should be looking for, less than this. But I'm saying this is the type of move initially off the sweeper activity you're looking to achieve, right? You put a check next to anything that acts like that off sweeper activity. All right. But I'm just giving you guys an example. So that right there is something, especially for the first couple weeks of the start of earnings season, a trade we still have live in where there's less risk, right? Because you're not holding overnight. And let's paint the downside or worst case scenario. You get something that pops and then fizzles out, levels out, right? And goes dead. You don't want to sit, you're not going to sit in it now for 2 weeks, right? You're looking for that momentum off the sweep for intraday purposes. Forget about how big the bets were, what they look like. That all is past tense. Okay, once the sweeper activity comes in, you're looking for momentum to come in sooner than later, right? Should be almost immediately a lot of times. All right, so that's your downside. Your downside is there's not enough momentum there for you to make much money. You may lose a little, you may scratch, you may make a little, okay? But sometimes you get lucky and you catch these, okay? And that's the goal out of this type of trading strategy, whether it's equity, options, I don't care what vehicle you're using to try to catch these things. That's what we're looking to do. And it's up to us to stay disciplined, take greed out of the equation, right? Because a lot of times now, all of a sudden, it looks good. You may want to swing it, right? For a couple days. That's all fine and dandy. You just got to understand the risk you're taking by doing that, okay? So if you decide to turn a day trade into a swing, that's lovely. But if you lose the money, don't start crying the blues. You know what I mean? Don't start crying the blues. You're big boys and big girls. You made that decision. If you didn't think of the added risk that it was involved with turning a day trade into a swing trade, again, there's no one to blame but yourself. All right. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of times and not to me, they're not being, jackasses to me, but I just hear, I see people in the steam room or I hear people murmuring, chatting around. Oh my God, all those Pinterest sweepers and this stock back the next day. You know what I mean? And I can sit here turning purple in the face and saying, listen, now is not the time to rely on the bets. Okay, we a lot of this action. We're looking for momentum only, and it falls on deaf ears. So, that's why I bring it up. If you ask me right now, what's the best risk reward for where we are as far as the market's concerned as a whole, going into earnings season, yeah, okay. And we'll see where the flow ends up. Like I said, there's going to be there's going to be at some point some sharp pullbacks in the names you guys like to trade. Okay, those pullbacks may end up being decent for snapback trades short term. Now that's going to be a lot quicker involved, right? The whole 9 yards. So we'll see how those play out and whether we see flow into them, etc. But right now, I'm the underbelly and the underbelly only because that's where I think we get the biggest bang for our buck, and you can have some sort of control over it. So here's another example. This one caught some chatter. A couple of us played COF off the open. Like this was quick. right? So you had sweeper activity come in, some chatter that I don't even know, was it buyout chatter, activist chatter, who knows? And then you had some continued flow and, followed through here. Okay, now went dead here, right? But you're looking for the momentum and you're looking to make some money in between, and that's it. Okay, and there's other examples depending on your style. This TLRY had sweeper activity throughout the day. There was a window if you were willing to chase green. There was a window in the afternoon where you could have scalped it if that's your game, where the flow really got aggressive. I think it was right here, yeah. This is a 1 minute chart, by the way. So that's what you're looking for. The ideal, and I know like Nick, you were asking about this, day trade. So it becomes a problem. But for me, the ideal scenario is when that rapid fire action comes in and we're either off a pull or some sideways. If I'm ever buying, into up here, I'm looking for scalp and scalp only, because I know it's late in the push higher. If I can catch it at the lower end of the range or some sideways action, that's where I give things a little bit of a longer leash. All right, but you guys get the gist of it. I mean, most of you know exactly what I'm talking about, but a lot of times these webinars too, newer people who see all this earnings action come in, and then they hear me say that a lot of it's a waste of time, and they wonder why. So that's what I would recommend: momentum only. All right, and momentum somehow, some way, you have to risk. Okay, you have to when you're playing for momentum, right? Because if momentum's not there, you want to pull the plug. You don't want a momentum trade all of a sudden to turn into a bet on a name. Right? That's the last thing you want to do. If you're playing for momentum, you want to see that momentum. You want to pull the plug and get out. All right. So Nick and I were talking about this, and it just raises a good question because I know probably a lot of you are asking it. What do you do if you don't trade intraday right now, right? If you're telling you there's enough juice out there and that's where the best risk reward is and blah, 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 what would you do? For me, honestly, I probably sit tight right now. Earnings season. I know that sounds ridiculous. And if you're a real degenerate, you're probably like, what the fuck is he talking about? But that's what I would do if I couldn't trade intraday right now. Okay. But if you want to trade, okay, I'm not saying everything you're going to touch is going to be a loser. You're going to have a lot higher failure rate during earnings season. If you want to trade, what I would recommend doing is down and trying to be as quick as possible. Trying to be as quick as possible. So if you're going to allow those calls to go to zero, and that's your stop loss, all right? And I don't know, how liquid Pinterest is, but I don't know how far stop loss is going to get you. If that's just going to zero, then you have to size down. It's not worth trading the same size now as it was off initial activity. So, and I would just be quicker, and I would be, more selective, a lot more selective, and trade only action that I feel strong enough in a name that I think is set up in a pretty good spot. Like I'll give you an example again. For me, like a name like, I wouldn't swing it buying it up 3 and change. That's just me though, but if you did, you can, buy it, and then you're looking all through tomorrow morning, and you want to get out of that. So that sort of thing. You want to be more what it comes down to. All right. And what I think we have now, I think you never know what's at the doorstep. Tomorrow we have this trade deal and details, and if there are any details, who knows? Every day, it's a whole new can of worms these days. But a lot of times when you get this momentum shift, right? This chase, this is an all-out chase for exposure in the names of like Tesla, Apple, right? All of them, some more than others. Usually it will last until the first big high beta name reports. Okay, so I give an example. Maybe you guys know. The first one that I see is like Netflix. All right, so you'll get sweepers supporting these names, right? And sellers, no real sellers show up unless you have an exogenous event or something like that. No real sellers show up until a name like Netflix reports. Okay, and then the reaction to Netflix off earnings is likely going to have a big influence and big impact on all of them, no matter whether they have ties fundamentally to any of those names or not. The momentum group, that whole group that we're seeing this type of action in, depending on the reaction in Netflix off of earnings, you're likely going to see similar reaction in those names. So if they take the air out of the balloon, you'll see a lot of these names sell off. Okay, and that may create an opportunity, right? Netflix misses or disappoints on earnings, that really doesn't say anything about like a Facebook or an Apple. So you might have some buying into that, but ultimately, Niner on Facebook here, huh? Some selling here. You see, like today, at the least you're probably going to see more of these type days as we get closer to that Netflix number, where green will be there for a second, and then you look and you like, I didn't even realize, Facebook ended up red today. So you get these type of things, but because you're a little late here, that's why. But Netflix, when's Netflix earnings? A lot of us spoke about this. I think is it the 19th or something like that? Is it the 19th Netflix? Anybody know it offhand? Oop. What did I just do here? Oh, the 21st. 21st. Thank you. Oh, so I have it right here? This is wrong then, huh? Oh, this is Facebook. That's why I'm dizzy. So Netflix the 21st. Yep. That's why you have a little bit of time. A little bit of time. All right. So that's that. Let's just talk about some other things that are important. I think are having a big impact on the market. Some of you may not want to hear it, but it's pretty important right now in this market. I don't want to get into the details on this. All right, we talk about it with members and blah blah blah, but Gamma's still at a pretty hefty number. I think it closed around 1.6, 1.5, 1.6 billion. Okay, and what that tells us is that price action, the likelihood is price action is going to be sticky, kind of like what we saw today. All right, so that if you're an ES trader and that sort of thing, you don't like to hear that, right? You want some movement. The only thing I will say, if you can scalp during the day, you got some levels and numbers to keep an eye on. Like Niners have been, I don't know if you guys have been following the intraday Niners. They've been absolute money lately. Absolute money. Absolute money. So, if you're looking for entries on ES or even names, it doesn't hurt to see where these things are lining up. Okay, like here's your Niner here into that wash. All right, so you're looking for a spot maybe to take a shot into this nonsense. There's your Niner. You put something on here, and you look for a little upside. But as far as the movement is concerned, when you got 1.6 and we've seen higher than that. But when you get 1.5 billion, you really don't have too much room to the upside unless somebody really comes in firing some buying around. All right, so what that means in simple English is that every time SPX goes up, the market makers are going to be selling, and every time SPX moves lower, they're going to be buying the dip, and that creates that sticky, choppy action. And if you're ever wondered why you can get a big headline that can take down the market and then some throughout the day on certain times, right? And other times seems like a headline just as bad, and the market goes down off the algos and just claws its way right back. If you ever wondered why that happens, there's only one reason why, in my opinion, and that's Yo Gabba Gamma, nothing else. When you start to see 1.5 billion, and that's where the upside gets a little difficult. Obviously, as you get closer to that 2 billion mark, it gets even more stickier. But 1.5 billion, you want to start paying attention and be on the lookout for some stickiness. Okay, but ultimately, it's not a bearish thing, right? As we talked about, it's more you look at it as a bullish grind in a sense, if that makes any sense. You know, you get that during market hours. I got to clear the screen a little bit. You get this choppy type action, but net, right? You got upside, and a lot of the move comes during the overnight session. So you get futures up, you get a little follow through off the open, and then all of a sudden hits a brick wall. A lot of times will run into a 9er high, right? And then that's it. Those are the highs for the day until maybe the last half hour. All right, that's all gamma related, as well as probably the put the calls being fried, all gamma related. There's a lot of gamma related shit out there right now. Excuse my French. All right, so that's where gamma sits right now. So what's that mean to us? You know, as far as a market as a whole here, the upside is not too juicy. So we want to be quicker to take profits, right? It's amazing like how many traders will get caught in chop and complain about the chop, right? But not do anything about it, not try to understand or be aware of why there may be chop out there. They just, it's chop. Premium drain, fucking market makers, premium drain. You know what I mean? Instead of maybe trying to understand it, not that you can avoid it constantly, but at least try to understand chop and premium drain. And maybe you can avoid it some of the time, right? And it makes it easier on you. So if you want to avoid choppy environments for the most part, when gamma gets up there, right? And when you see the flow look shitty, is the best way to put it, sloppy, the likelihood is there's no momentum and it's going to be a choppy scenario out there. Okay, so you want to avoid playing in that. And like I said, not all the time is it, you're going to avoid that scenario and it's just going to be chop and no opportunities. But the more you avoid it, the less likely you are to get caught in those choppy situations if that's been, a nail in your side. All right. Anybody have any questions? And I know a lot of you already, especially private Twitter people, but a lot of you who are new to the whole gamma and flow thing, who have started to pay, have given it a closer look. You see, right, the mechanics of it. right? And am I making a true statement to of that? Like for some of you where you may be new to gamma and flow, you see the relationship between them and how it ends up translating into price action. Oh, that's awesome, John. That's awesome. So not all the time, but you're going to see more than not when gamma's up there and the flow is mixed, and just you're not seeing me pump out call sweepers. The likelihood is there's not a lot of momentum there. And if there is upside in the market, usually gets washed away. The stronger moves have a tendency to happen when gamma is under that 1.5 billion and call sweepers are most aggressive, especially in SPY and high beta names, because that's going to help create momentum. Yeah, so the gamma VIX, as we call it, in relation to the actual VIX, is still signaling that the VIX is overpriced. Okay, and overpriced is a little misleading at this point. I don't want to say overpriced, but mispriced maybe is a better term. But volatility on gamma is telling us is there's nothing that they see that's concerning them about a window of volatility opening yet. Okay, and like I said on our webinars, that can change off a little bit of weakness. Okay, that doesn't have to change into strength, right? We spoke about that on the Sunday webinar. Everybody wants to be top into strength, and it doesn't work that way. Okay. At this point, all the valuable intel, okay, all the valuation is going to come off weakness. Okay, so when we do get a little pull, right, of a couple days or a day or whatever the case may be, okay, that the action into that and the part gamma plays into that is going to tell us a lot about whether this thing is the start of potentially something bigger, or it's just Iran or scare all the riffraff and away we go again. But it's strength, unfortunately. Like when you're in right, valuable information into high, okay, because that's where short-term sentiment heats up, right? That's where call sweepers dry up. That's where a lot of things happen to signal, okay, it's time to lighten up, okay? That's in a range-bound market that we've been in for 2 years. This is not that, okay? When you get this chase all-out bull, you're going to see call sweepers all the way to the music stops. They're not stopping. You're going to see chasers. If they're chasing Tesla now up here, they're going to keep chasing Tesla until they run out of money. Okay, that's their game, whether it's forced buying or they're playing momentum or whatever the case may be. So the call sweepers in Tesla and Apple and all those names, they're not going to tell us jack. All right. When we get weakness and there's some selling, right, is they put sweeper activity into that weakness, or they're buying or they're sweeping calls into that weakness, right? Is X in gamma terms telling us that it's sniffing out some turbulence, or is it not even breaking a sweat? All that we will learn off couple of red days, maybe one red day if there's enough juice in it. So that's what we're waiting for, right? That's where we can make some other decisions and where try to plan for the next few weeks. But I think right now where we're at, I don't know about you guys, but I feel good where I'm at right now. Going into earnings, I did what I had to do. I'm holding what I wanted to hold with a good amount of time behind it. I'm active. I'm having fun. There's a lot of juice out there. Maybe I'm not making as much money as I could be if I was all in, but I feel good about where I'm at right now. And like many people out there, I'm sure, I wouldn't mind some sort of pullback at all. Not one bit. Not one bit. And I'm long. I have positions long with time, but I'm long. So obviously those most likely would be affected, but I would love some sort of digestion here. Even I'll take sideways indices sideways. I'll let them just keep hitting underbelly names that haven't participated in this latest move. I'll even take that. But I want the indices to stop right now. I want the indices to stop. That would be ideal. Stop going higher. All right, one last thing too. And I forgot, somebody made the point in the room, which we've been talking about, which was a great point. Like I just mentioned, bulls want to pull back. Bears are looking to position for a pullback. Everybody's eyeballs, right? Everybody's eyeballs is eyeing a pullback. So the likelihood that pullback is easy and obvious, what's the likelihood of that? It's either going to sneak up on you and go bang, right? It's either going to be bang where you flash crash in pre-market, or it's going to be one of those jammies where you get snapback, whoosh, snapback. You know what I mean? And there could be a larger move to the downside, but the likelihood it may start off something like that. All right. And then, make its move. Yeah, it's very possible. Or you're right. Or it could be that. You get just beak and then stuck. All right. So that's, it's kind of scenarios. What's interesting though is that I wouldn't be surprised if all the names like Tesla, Apple, who have gone parabolic, are the ones that get hit, and you start to see outperformance in a lot of other things that hold up better on the way down and push higher when we stabilize. It's hard for me to see that they're going to beat up Tesla if it needs to get beat up, right? They're going to beat up everything else out there like they're going to beat up Tesla. It's likely not going to happen. So I'll tell you what is ideally set up right now, and wow, would we love it, right? Is where you get the Teslas and Apples get tired, right? So they sneak in some weakness and they take those down. And all of a sudden you get that big major rotation back into the other spots of the market. Okay. The markets may get tired up here, but it's going to be really to take down the markets, the indices, if there's that rotation. So there's a lot of things to keep an eye out for here. And I think it's a perfect setup for it because we're going into earnings season. You want to be a little lighter here, right? And you're just going to get a lot of information, I think, off the first couple of weeks of earnings, especially once we get some of the bigger names out. You're going to get a lot of information, and I think it's best to stay involved, keep your eyes open, and pay attention rather than stressing over, some trades that you're trying to milk here. And keep an eye. You get weakness off earnings. If they buy that, that's your entry. So there's a lot going on right now. Usually, me, Yes, exactly, John. You know me, earnings, I usually curl up into the fetal position and cry to my mommy. I can't stand earnings season. I'm not playing earnings, you know. But few times during earnings season, there's a lot going on that I want to pay attention to. If you remember, the first quarter coming out of the correction in December was one of those times where, the way things acted off bad earnings was going to tell us a lot. Remember that? So I think we're at a similar spot here, where we're going to get a lot of info. We're going to get a lot of good intel from the flow and the reaction, the price action to earnings. But yeah, like that exactly. There's some names already, boom, they get whacked off earnings, and because I missed that too. I know some of you buying those blood sweepers, with the intermediate trade. This one was nice. ESTC. That was like the last one, legitimately. This one didn't even make that big of a move, but you get this big move down off earnings, and then you get some decent buying come in there. That's an entry. So whether you want just to trade out of it, or you want to pick up a little more time, because you think maybe this is a one-off, you like the company, you finally got an entry, whatever the case may be. That's that. Let's go quickly into questions or names. Again, we're into earnings season, so questions on names is not really, I'm not going to do much for you here. But anybody have anything to add, or anybody have any question about anything I just mentioned here? We're all cool? Does it make sense? Does the playbook, especially those of you who are members, we talked about it Sunday, so we kind of went over this, but does the playbook make sense? You guys good? That's awesome. Trey, I know you're good anyway. All right, and that's it. It's been an incredible market, a lot of action, right? A lot of flow, names, a lot of big winners missed, a lot of nice winners we had. Now I think it's a time to just be a little more and pay attention to the signals more than positions that may be a bit overextended here. That's all. All right, but if you can remain tactical for now, the way things are, as long as call sweepers continue to hit up things like they've been doing, you're going to get momentum on an intraday basis. That's not going to last forever. Yeah, I mean the Tesla action, Mike, is fun to watch. I don't wish bad on anybody, but when you're arrogant and short at the same time, when you get run over, that's going to put a smile on my face. I'm not going to lie. When you're bearish and you're arrogant about it, that's when it'll bring a nice smile to my face. Bad on anybody. I don't wish bad on anybody. Yeah, you like when I get fired up on shorts? I'm not going to lie. I do it to get them going, Paul, more than anything else. It bothers them so much. They tattoo my mentions on Twitter. You know what I mean? So I know how to push their buttons. I know exactly how to push their buttons. Oh, by the way, one little piece of information. I'm going to leave it to some smarter people who know more about that than I do. But my takeaway from the New York Fed update today was the Fed is still pumping in liquidity to the 13th of February. They're not taking anybody more familiar with that whole Fed stuff than I am? Otherwise, guys, for those of you who are members, I'll post an update. My boy really knows his shit when it comes to that, so I'm gonna hit him up tonight and see what he says about it. But from what my impression was, up to February 13th, everything is status quo, and the spigots are open. Yeah, I heard February 13th. They're going to give updates periodically, but I heard Feb 13th. Up to Feb 13th, I posted it on In the Room and private Twitter. Everything's a go, which is crazy. So, it doesn't mean we can't get those sharp pulls, but the likelihood is you're going to still have that risk on out there, and they're going to find something to buy. You know what I mean? So you're going to get like that whole Iran situation. You're going to get a 3 day pullback or whatever it may be. And if liquidity is still flush, they want to take risk. They want to buy equities. So they're going to find something to buy. Maybe it's rotation or something of that sort. But the likelihood is with liquidity, with the spigots open like that, they're going to find something to buy. So anyway, I'll have an update for you probably in the morning, guys, on that whole repo stuff. All right. Be good, everybody. Have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Anybody who's new, wallstreetjesus.com. All right. Guys, enjoy the night.